All right, today we're going to talk about restrictions and how to set them up and how to import divisions and restrictions and all that kind of stuff from different organizations like USA Wrestling, or if you have a separate organization set up on your own, like an IKWF or a state sanction or any of the others that we can set up for you that would have your own age groups, divisions, weights, all the different restrictions that go around a tournament and how those work. So first, I'm going to go into this tournament called Diggers Gold. And when I go to divisions, we're going to see that there are no divisions listed. Okay? So now I'm going to go here and I can add a division. When I add a division, I can add a single division and just put like 8U or anything like that and just have it go there. But really and truly, this is a USA event. I have USA Wrestling here, and I'm going to follow their age group and weights. So I can choose USA Wrestling. And by doing that, now I can pick the actual age groups that I want, both boys and girls. And I can pick those age groups and then the style that I want to bring in, and if I want the weights and the restrictions that go along with those. So from here, I'm going to say, hey, yeah, I want the 8U boys. I want the girls as well, all the way to juniors. And now this will create me divisions that have 8U boys, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 juniors, as well as girls 8 through juniors as well. We're going to have it for the discipline of folk style, and I could choose a different discipline if that tournament had that. And now I'm going to say that I want to include the weight classes, and I also want to include the restrictions, and we'll talk about restrictions in just a second. Okay? So now that I add these, I add those in, and they're going to produce them in there. And now I have all my age groups are in here. And if I go into an age group, I'll see that I have my weight classes. My weight classes are in there. And now let's take a look at these restrictions and what that means. Okay? So now this restrictions tab, which is under weights or under divisions, I can see that it went ahead and took the date of birth ranges for USA Wrestling because it is a age-based type of division, all right, or restriction. And so it has the age range, and it gives me the division that it applies to, okay? So now all of these are set up for every one of those, but let's take a deeper dive and let's look into what we can do here. So if for some reason I said, hey, you know what, we increment these, we actually give an extra year, I could go in here and say 2005, and I could change that date of birth if I wanted to, and that would change that restriction. I could also limit this restriction to different divisions if I needed to, different weight classes within that division or within divisions. I could actually do it as a grade-based tournament and set those up as well, just based on the grades. I could set it up by gender and say, hey, this is a male, this is a female one. And then I can also set up the registration limits. So if I want to say hey, this division can only have 50 kids, I could say it can only have 50 registered athletes. And I can set a different registration deadline and a release to public for that division, okay? Now, the registration deadline would be in a case of, hey, we have a tournament open and we close 8Us on Tuesday and we close juniors on Thursday. You can set the different deadlines and it would open and close the registration within bracketing for that time period, okay? The release to public, this is sort of an important thing no matter what, because if you're building brackets and you're doing sessions and you're going to start the second session and you're going to build that second session before the first session is done, you would want to set this release date to be when the brackets are released or when all the information about that division is released, so that parents aren't coming up to the table trying to check and see, hey, my kid's not in the bracket yet, whatever, when you're still building it. Okay. You could also set that release to public date here based on that division if you were just trying to say, hey, we don't want people to see what we're doing here for whatever reason. There's a master release to public that you can use that would lock it for every division and everything, but you can also use it per division here as well. Okay. So I can edit those restrictions out. I'm going to take this back to 2006 and save that. And then we're going to create our own restriction. You see I have a reg limit of 50 now on that one. So I'll go ahead back in and take that out as well. And all your settings will start to show up here in this table so you can read down what's going through it, okay? So you can see that anyone can register for that junior division. Only girls can register for the girls juniors. Only girls for the 16U and so on. So you can check that out and see how that works, all right? So I can add a restriction here, just as we were talking about, and say I want to say, hey, this applies to all divisions. So I can say, hey, this is going to be all divisions. And now I'm going to put in that release to public date. And I'm going to say I don't want this to release until Saturday morning, because Saturday morning is the tournament, and I want to make sure that at like 10 a.m. is when we're going to start, so I want to say 9:45 we'll release brackets and everything, because we're going to start at 10 o'clock, okay? So that's my registration deadline. But my release to public down here. So I'll set that now, and I'll set that to be for this Saturday, like I said, and I'll set it for 9:45 a.m., just so that I can say, hey, we're going to make sure every division is locked with all the wrestler information, all the brackets, everything until that time period. Okay? So not only are restrictions there for keeping the age groups, grade-based, genders, all that, you can also set it for your release to publics for any of those things that you want to do as well. So all these things are set, and that's how you use your restrictions to hold back on the certain divisions and certain things you're going to do within your tournament. These restrictions will also apply if you go into your wrestlers and you start to add or manipulate wrestlers in here. It will apply those restrictions to it. And so if it's a worker permission, it will block them and say they can't do it. If it's a event admin, it will actually let you do the change, but it's going to warn you and say, hey, you changed something, but you have a restriction that said you shouldn't have done that. So you have to go back and look at those things. So all those are set in there. And again, you get restrictions by going to your divisions or weights page. In the divisions, you have a restrictions tab. And also in the weights page, you have a restrictions tab. And both those will get you there and be able to edit those restrictions. And that will help you to lock down your tournament and make sure everything's where it needs to be.